How do you decide when you have solved a problem? Coming back to Nano Banana Pro and the text in image, which you just mentioned, if there's anyone watching this who has not used Nano Banana Pro and has not tried to generate an infographic or something that has heavy text inside of it, it really is wondrous. This was a problem in artificial intelligence or Gen AI for the last couple of years. If you weren't using AI at the time, you wouldn't have known about this, but you just could not generate text in image. It would just be a complete garbled mess in the background, and it would take away from the photorealistic nature or utility of the image. Nano Banana Pro all of a sudden just came out of the gate and said, done, we've solved this. It is done. There's maybe the odd spelling mistake, but even that I'm not noticing. It was basically a solved product, a solved problem at that point when it came out. When you are preparing for your next release, whatever that will be, are you aiming for that level of 100% solved, or does it just need to be incrementally better?
It's very humbling to hear that you feel it's solved. When I look at the product, I see the glass half empty all the time. I see the odd misspelling. I see the likeness that's not completely there. We're continually trying to push ourselves to get a higher bar. We have eval sets, challenge sets. We saturate our eval sets, we create new ones. But when you look at scale, when you look at so many images generated, we just announced 1 billion images generated on the Gemini app with Nano Banana Pro, and it took us 50 odd days to get there. You see the problems at scale. You see the misspellings, the issues. We are never satisfied that something is solved. What we do look for is a step change in improvement. So did we meaningfully change the curve for that eval set, for that capability in a way that it meets the average user threshold of feeling, like you said, that's solved?
Because I even felt that with Nano Banana Pro, the photorealism was pretty much solved. I can't remember the exact photo, but you've seen the images and memes where people are saying, is this real? Is this AI? I got to a certain point of tell and I can zoom in, I can look for artifacts, things that are slightly too in focus or slightly out of focus or something. But I got to a point where there's no point in me trying to do this anymore. Photorealism was basically achieved, at least for me. There are people who are much more expert in this particular field. Again, that feels pretty much like a solved problem for me because you're seeing billions of images and looking at the benchmarks. You know exactly what to look for. You're going to have a much higher threshold than myself and the general public as well.
You bring a good point with photorealism. That's one of the areas I tried to unlock, and we probably unlocked it with Imagen before Nano Banana. When we think about photorealism, I think about filmmakers. So in film, they have a saying around pulling the curtain of the Wizard of Oz. If you watch a series on TV, for example, and somebody has a ring on one finger, and then there's a cut and the ring isn't there, that takes you out of the moment. You see the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, and you're not as emotionally immersed. Take that to images. It's the same for images, it's the same for video. To create that emotional connection, to convey that message, sometimes that emotional message that you're trying to convey, you need to have a high degree of photorealism. The same with facial preservation. So we try to push on photorealism as much as we can. To your point of, is that real, is that not real? I mentioned in the beginning also the responsibility of releasing these tools. For us, it matters a lot to meet that moment and to release these tools responsibly. Society today is now asking, can I trust an image? Can I trust a video? In the past, it was an artifact that many people felt you can trust it. If you saw it, you know it's real. If you saw in the news a video clip, then you knew it happened. If you saw on a paper an image, you knew it happened. And today that construct is getting challenged. So we spend a lot of time on provenance and helping people understand if something is real or fake. The first thing we do is synth ID, an invisible watermark in the image that is unbreakable. We don't know of anybody who managed to break it yet. You can now upload an image or a video to the Gemini app and ask, is this generated by Google? Or is this AI generated? And it will tell you if it detects a synth watermark. So any consumer can do that now. The other thing we do is add C2PA, which is a standard that multiple players in the industry deploy on their images. You can upload that image to C2PA checker, and it will tell you the history of that image and what it went through. And then the third thing we do is that we add a visible watermark, which is most breakable. You can crop it out and it won't be there. to let users know that it's generated by Google. So you have multiple avenues of provenance, one unbreakable, another used by many players in the industry, and one very breakable but easy to see to help that question of is it real or is it fake? So we can help society also determine what can they trust, which is a very important thing.
One thing I've noticed with Synth ID in particular is that people actually know about it. I know there's a push to publicize it and make sure that people understand this exists. But very rarely have I seen the public in this space engaging with something that is relatively technical about regulation, it's about the ethics, but it is something that is generally known. I think your team's done a really good job of making sure that people know about Synth ID. So that could have been something of very little public interest. But instead, I've seen in comments people saying, oh, put it in Synth ID, stick it in Synth ID, in the same way that you might say, oh, Google it. So people are saying Synth ID. So whoever was on the team publicizing that has done a really good job.